Resistance 3, we're picking up 4 years after the end of Resistance 2. If you remember, at the end of Resistance 2, Nathan Hale was killed. That was our final shot. Very shocking ending for R2. And Joseph Capelli was the man who shot Hale at the end.
And it's something that weighed heavy on him in a number of ways. He also saw the futility of fighting the Chimera with the military forces, and things had been rapidly going downhill. So he sort of had I guess, a life crisis, and ended up moving back to a small town, meeting a woman, having a life, starting anew. And the way that he's going to survive in all of this is protect his family. So in a lot of ways, he's like an old gunslinger where he's hung up his killing ways in order to have this new life. But naturally, the way that stories always end, something happens, inciting incident, gunslinger's going to have to pick up his killing ways.
So we wanted the character visually to change as well. We didn't want it to be like, oh, it's Capelli from R2 looking exactly the same, because he's not exactly the same person. He's evolved.
Joe Capelli was about 250 pounds, give or take, in R2. Now he's pretty undernourished. He's about 190 pounds, but he's 6'5", so he's a pretty thin guy. So at the beginning of Resistance 3, we tell the story about how when Hale was killed, Dr. Malikov, who was an important character in Resistance 2 and also in Resistance 3, he managed to extract some blood from Nathan Hale and discovered that Nathan Hale had some special antibodies inside of him. And from that, they were able to develop a Hale vaccine, which essentially is a cure for the Chimeran virus. So now, using the Hale vaccine, Joe Capelli and the rest of the survivors, of which there are few at this point, about 90% of the people have been killed by the Chimera around the world. They are now, if they manage to get their hands on this Hale vaccine, they can be cured and immune from future infection. So Hale's legend lives on. He didn't die in vain. He was actually, because of who he was and what he was made up of, he was able to sort of save the rest of humanity through that vaccine.
This game is going to have a Kodachrome 1950s-esque film look. But we're in a very sad, sort of depressing point of humanity, and it's your job to fix that. So we're not going to be as colorful as we were in R2, but we're not going to be as monochromatic as R1. So it's kind of in between those two, I guess you could say.
One of the things that we really wanted to do on R3, especially with following our new theme, is making sure that humanity is represented when you're in these levels. I mean, it's important not to just kind of walk into empty rooms, but to see people huddling and scared, and how are the people in this world actually dealing with what's going on around them. So the story, I think, gave us a lot of opportunity to really push that, and especially as we evolved, how different people are dealing with it in different ways. So it was a new challenge for us, just in terms of not, of course, how much we were going to have to do animation-wise on top of what we were already doing, but just to really kind of continue to sell that theme.
The approach to multiplayer in Resistance 3 is to really streamline a lot of the things that were really popular with Resistance 1, Resistance 2. So obviously weapon usage is a big one, but we also have our progression through multiplayer that's I think a lot tighter, so it's going to reward people as they go. We're also setting the location of all our multiplayer maps in various locations around the world. And during the single-player campaign, you'll be hearing kind of updates of those battles as you're progressing through the game. The move away from the two-weapon system of Resistance 2 to Resistance 3 is less a reaction from anyone in particular, and it's more about making the game that we wanted to make. I think the weapon wheel fits Resistance 3 a lot better because we are putting the onus on players having the choice to play the game the way they want to. Resistance 2 was just frankly a different game.
One of the new guns that we're introducing in R3 is called the Plague Thrower. Plague Thrower is a human-made weapon that uses Chimeran tech. And so the idea behind the design for this is that there is no manufacturing going on. The US as well as the world has completely been destroyed. And so this is a weapon that's been cobbled together by kind of a mad scientist, if you will. And so what we've done in our design is it has a piece of Chimeran tech, which is where the plague stuff is coming from, and then that's been kind of rigged together with a bunch of different found parts that you would find in the environment. Its handle is actually a gasoline pump. The tip of it is kind of like a shotgun. The metal casing is just like metal that you would have found off of some other machinery. And so it's all kind of put together in a very makeshift way.
Well, the biggest shift in focus on co-op was really trying to focus and have a uniform experience for the players. So playing single player, playing with a friend, having that same unified experience, and really crafting that into something that's an outstanding player experience. That was more important to us than trying to craft a whole different mission-based system. Getting players in and experiencing the same high level of quality of the single-player game is really our greatest goal. Is Resistance 3 the end of a trilogy? I don't think so. I think Resistance 3 is a story within the Resistance universe that can be expanded upon. There are definitely going to be a beginning, middle, and end, but we're really trying to make it something that people won't have to have played Resistance 1 and 2 to get a great experience from, that we want players to, fans of the franchise to get a lot out of, but we don't want to be bogged down so much in the storyline that new players won't understand what's going on. So I believe there will be doors being closed, but they won't be slammed.